This is 1160 AM, KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's business authority.
The information provided during this broadcast belongs to the show host and is for general informational purposes only. Nothing that is discussed or taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information does not and is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship, nor does receipt of or listening to the information provided constitute an attorney-client relationship.
Welcome to the Believers in Business Hour on KVCE AM 1160. It's time for Bar Talk with local trial lawyer Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need. Stay tuned, get informed, and get educated about your legal rights when you or a loved one have been seriously injured or harmed by the conduct of someone else or at the hands of an insurance company. Brad Parker has focused his law practice exclusively on trial work since becoming licensed in 1985 and is board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. And now, here's Bar Talk with Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody listening in this afternoon to Bar Talk. I'm Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need. What a weird week we've had. The death of Robin Williams, I think, took everybody by surprise. I saw today that Lauren Bacall passed away. If you never were a fan of Lauren Bacall's, go back and watch some of those Humphrey Bogart movies and some of those black and white To Have and Have Not, and some of those great movies. They're just fantastic movies. And I know I've made my daughters watch the old black and white movies. They always go, "Oh no, not another black and white movie, Dad." But tell you what, some of those are great. And then I was listening to the filmography of Robin Williams. My gosh, I had forgot how many just excellent movies that guy had been in, and how truly funny he was. Tragic loss. Then, of course, we had another tragic loss or tragic event occur up in New York on the Speedway, and that's what I want to focus on a little bit today, the Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward ordeal that occurred up in New York on, I guess it was Saturday night. Just a terrible deal, but I want to kind of focus on what the legal implications are. I'm going to focus a little bit on the criminal aspect of it, but I want to spend more time about the civil implications and what, if any, consequences there might be and what kind of fallout there might be surrounding that. As we go through this, I hope that if you have a question or have a question or concern that you want to raise or ask, that you'll call in. If you've got the questions, I'm going to try to find the answer for you. And if I can't get it for you immediately, I'll follow up with you. That's like every week. If you guys listening in, there's probably 5 or 6 of you. I know. I know all my good friends today out at Crazy Cowboy are listening in. I sure do appreciate that. I may stop by a little bit later. But in any event, if y'all have questions, call in. I'll be happy to try to answer them. And the number here is 214. Matt, can you help me with that? I don't have 787-1160. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's 214-787-1160. Thanks, Matt, for pulling me out there. Matt's my board operator and keeps me running smoothly and on time. Likewise, if you can't call in today, but you do have a legal issue you'd like to talk about, whether it's Tony Stewart or whatever, something else going on in your life that you'd like some help with, know that you can call me anytime at my office. My phone number is 817-503-9200. Or you could always get me by email at brad@parkerlawfirm.com. That's brad@parkerlawfirm.com. I will always talk to you for free consultation over the phone, or if we need to, we can get you in and visit. And if I can't help you, I'm going to find or try to find somebody that can. A lot of times there's nothing that can be done, but you just need to know that. You need to hear that. You need to know what your options are so that you can go forward in an intelligent manner and figure out what's the best course for you. One of the things I've been talking about every week, it's just got on my radar screen, and really it's just young kids and babies are just such precious. Maybe it's because I've got 2 grandkids myself, in a sort of extended family way. And they're just so dear and precious to us. And we've always talked about kids in hot cars being left out. Last week we had the National Heat Stroke Prevention Day on July 31st, I guess it was, and unfortunately, that day saw the headlines about a little 3-year-old boy who had climbed into his parents' car, and while they were napping, he got outside somehow, and they just didn't realize it. But I'm very happy to report that in getting ready for the show today, I scanned the internet, and I couldn't find anything about another child having died over the last week as a result of being left in a car, and that's good. That's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear. But notwithstanding, we've got 19 victims so far this year. We had 44 last year, and it just requires a constant diligence on the part of everybody to make certain, especially if you're not the normal caregiver or care person who drives them to school or to daycare on your regular basis. It's those folks that sometimes seem like they're the ones that forget because it's not in their routine to take them by the daycare or whatever. And as I've said before, if you do travel with the little one, put your cell phone back there. You're not going to run off and leave your cell phone in the back seat of the car, but you might that little one who you're not used to having all the time. So, okay, well, I want to talk about Tony Stewart. I mean, if you haven't seen this video, you probably ought to get on and take a look at it. I'm sure everybody has heard about it, although with the Robin Williams death the following day or day after, it somewhat got taken out of the news cycle a little bit, but there's still a lot on this Tony Stewart tragedy. And for those of you who might not be familiar with it, there was a race. Tony Stewart is a very prominent NASCAR driver. He has, I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, the third winningest NASCAR driver there is. He is worth bukus of money. From one report I saw, over $100 million just through endorsements and winnings that he has. But one of his great hobbies is racing dirt track. And he is, you get this in your blood. I'm not a racer. I've never raced other than the little Legends cars out at TMC, the Texas Motor Speedway. And which is great fun. But you get racing in your blood, and the guys like Tony Stewart want to race all the time. I mean, they enjoy the dirt track. They enjoy, of course, NASCAR is what butters his bread, but the dirt track is something he does for the love of racing. And he was out there in New York Saturday night, and he was racing what they call the sprint cars. They're the little winged cars. You've seen them, I'm sure. They're like midget cars, they used to be called, and they have a wing on the top of them to suppress the air, will keep them down, pressed towards the track. It's a dirt track. It's a 1 mile oval dirt track, and he was racing. I'm not sure how many cars were in the race, but a young man by the name of Kevin Ward Jr., who I believe was out of New York as well, was racing. He was 20 years old. And had a great love of racing. And from what I understand and from what I've read, he had a lot of promise. And from what I understand, they had raced against one another just by happenstance a couple of times before. But they were coming around a corner. I think they call it the second corner or the second turn. And they went high up into the corner. And Tony Stewart was on the inside, and Kevin Ward was on the outside. And Tony bumps him, runs him up to the wall. Kevin Ward's car hits the wall, flies up onto the wall. If you can imagine kind of those concrete dividers you see out on the highway, that's kind of what it looked like to me. And rode up on that wall and turned around and flattened one of the tires and landed right side up, but facing backwards on the course, up very, very high. He got out of his car, unbuckled himself, got out of the car, and started kind of walking down the dirt track. Of course, the yellow flags go up, and he was pointing at Tony Stewart in the, I believe it was number 14 car, and Tony hadn't made it around the track yet, but as Tony comes back around, a couple other cars had come in ahead of Tony, and they avoided hitting Kevin Ward. But Tony comes around, and for whatever reason, and we'll talk about that, and a lot of people have been talking about it, for whatever reason, Tony hits him. And it looks like, it's not clear, but it looked to me like from the video that I looked at that he might have clipped him with the front right fender, and then his uniform or his suit, his fireproof suit, caught on the car, and it dragged him for several feet. I've heard anywhere from 20 to 50 feet, about like a rag doll, and tossed him up on the top edge of the track, and he died almost immediately, if not immediately. They pronounced him dead on the scene. And, of course, Tony Stewart pulls over immediately. And there's been an investigation going on as to why and what exactly happened. Tony pulled out of the race the next day, and there's been a lot of talk of whether or not this was intentional. Was he trying to scare him? Was he trying just to brush by him? Did he truly not see him? What went wrong? Of course, Kevin Ward was on the track, and he probably shouldn't have been. So we were going to discuss all these things when we come back. I hope you'll stay tuned, and if you got any questions or want to join the conversation, please join us at 214-787-1160. I'm Brad Parker. This is Bar Talk. Be back in a moment.
You're listening to 1160 AM KVCE.
Discover, share, and connect with today's thought leaders in health, lifestyle, and finance at GoodLifeRevolution.com. Now, the one talk show in America all about your wealth, your health, and living the good life. The Good Life Revolution is proud to present Ray Lucia.
GoodLifeRevolution.com.
Weekdays at 11 on DFW's Business Authority, 1160 KVCE.
Results described should not be considered as guarantees of your actual earnings or profits. Results not typical. Check terms and conditions for income disclosures.
How would you like to work from home, be your own boss, and make great money working online on your own time? These people saw the opportunity and took it.
Working online changed my life. I was able to get out of my high-pressure corporate job. It all started with HomeIncomeOnline.com.
I love that I'm able to spend more time with my kids while making over $10,000 per month.
Go to HomeIncomeOnline.com today and enter special code 1919 to learn about a multi-billion-dollar industry that's just waiting for you to tap into its incredible earning potential. Full and part-time opportunities are currently available.
I just graduated college, and I'm making more money than I ever imagined.
Are you ready to start making real money working online from home?
Just go to HomeIncomeOnline.com now and enter special code 1919 to get your risk-free information kit. That's www.HomeIncomeOnline.com, special code 1919.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter. We have an unwavering commitment to people who have been seriously harmed by the negligence or wrongdoing of others. Our practice focuses on those who have been killed or seriously injured in major trucking or car accidents, or whose lives have been seriously disrupted by the bad faith conduct of an insurance company.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker, principal partner at Parker Law Firm. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. I'm also the immediate past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. When you or a loved one has been seriously injured in an accident caused by another person's negligence, you may not know where to go or who to trust. Our firm is built on years of trial experience, a tradition of personal service, and a reputation for zealous representation of our clients. We're dedicated to providing experienced and comprehensive legal assistance to individuals and their families during their times of need.
Let the attorneys from Parker Law Firm help you. Get a free consultation. Call 817-503-9200. ParkerLawFirm.com. Principal Office, Bedford, Texas.
Listen to what people say about Phil'sGang.com.
You know, I'd listened to you on the radio, and I thought, I love his sense of humor. He can make trading fun. I guess this is the guy I'm going to learn to chart with. So Phil's Gang, Phil, I have learned so much. It is absolutely incredible.
For a successful investing plan for any time frame, from current income to your retirement security, Phil'sGang.com puts you on the path to making profits in the stock market.
You make it so simple if they can really grasp what you're trying to get through to them.
Only Phil'sGang.com's Phil Grandy and Donald Cogswell teach you, coach you, and guide you to investing confidence.
Being a gang member, and you're showing us how to trade in any market, which gives you such a feeling of confidence.
Why pay an outrageous fee for a one-time weekend investing class when Phil'sGang.com provides daily investing webinars, alerts, and investing advice for only $49.95 a month, and all material is archived. Go to Phil'sGang.com or call 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264. Phil'sGang.com.
I'm here to tell you about an amazing acne treatment that even Proactive says is better than Proactive. It's called Proactive Plus. It's totally better, totally advanced. Proactive Plus is their best, most effective solution ever from the #1 name in acne care. If your goal is a flawless complexion, call 1-800-390-3436. Call now to get free shipping. 1-800-390-3436. 1-800-390-3436.
The Business Authority, 1160 AM KVCE.
Welcome back to Believers in Business Bar Talk with Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer Brad Parker, right here on AM 1160 KVCE. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Brad Parker, and you're listening to Bar Talk. I'm the attorney you want, but hope you never need. Before we left, we were talking about the Tony Stewart tragedy, the tragic death of Kevin Ward, involved in a car crash with Tony Stewart. And after the crash, Kevin Ward got out of his car, walked down on the track a little bit, calling out Tony Stewart, and Tony got too close to him and ran over him, killed him on the spot. You know, we see that a lot in NASCAR and auto racing. Well, it seems like that's become part of the sport, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But, you know, the real speculation and the talk that I've seen has been about whether or not Tony meant to kill or run over Kevin Ward or not. And I just find it incomprehensible that anybody would, especially in the sport, lose their cool so much that they'd want or wish death, or you know, maybe they say something like that, but they would go out of their way to try to kill somebody. I find that extremely hard to believe, and after reading everything I've learned or read and looking at the video and looking at the law in New York a little bit, as well as just my 30 years of experience in the legal field, I find it, I think it'd be very, very surprising if the district attorney up in New York were to actually file any kind of murder charge against Tony Stewart arising out of this incident. Now, that could all change. I mean, you know, apparently Tony has given them a statement about what he believed happened, his version of events, and the DA and the sheriff in this county or this town where the event occurred has asked for any spectators who had video of the race or might have been doing it on their phone, or maybe they even had a video camera there, that they please provide it to the sheriff's department to aid them in their investigation. Of course, we know that there's at least one video out there, and while it's a little grainy, it's pretty revealing, and which I think could help and hurt in some of the legal actions that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But I also read today that a second video has been provided to the sheriff's department that has not been made public, so nobody really knows what's on that video. But if Tony Stewart's version of events is different than what the sheriffs ferret from the videos themselves, that certainly may play a role in their decision-making process of whether or not they might pursue charges against Tony. And you've got two aspects here, keep in mind, both a criminal aspect and a civil aspect. And they're both totally different, have two totally different standards For instance, in a criminal proceeding, in order to get a conviction, you would need a unanimous jury finding that the evidence supported beyond a reasonable doubt whatever the criminal charge might be. That would be in comparison to a civil case where you only are required to have a 10-2 verdict, at least in Texas. I presume New York is going to be the same. And the evidentiary burden is not that beyond a reasonable doubt. It is a preponderance of evidence. In other words, more likely than not. You don't have to be convinced, but just what is more plausible, what's more feasible, what's more likely than not. It doesn't have to be clear and convincing. It just has to be 51%. If you were to put it on those scales of justice, imagine that in your mind and weigh them out. But what are we talking about as far as what criminal charges could he be looking at? According to my research, what I saw, New York's like almost every other state, and certainly Texas. They have different levels of criminal charges. You could have murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree, negligent homicide, manslaughter in the first, those kinds of issues. So what does all that mean? In order to have murder in the first degree, you basically have to show intent. In other words, Tony Stewart, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to take this car and I'm going to run you over. Like I said at the beginning, I find that inconceivable that was truly on Tony Stewart's mind at the time that this happened. Another thing that they could charge him with would be murder in the second degree. And what that requires is that they'd have to show by beyond a reasonable doubt, and you get a unanimous verdict, that Tony was acting with a depraved indifference to human life and recklessly engaging in conduct that creates a grave risk of death to another person and thereby cause the death of another person. So you have to kind of sit back and look. Again, you've got to show that he was acting with a depraved indifference to human life, recklessly engaging in conduct that creates a grave risk. What if Tony was trying to scare him? What if Tony was trying to assert his authority by breezing him, but knowing full well of the danger involved, did it anyway? Would that equal depraved indifference to human life? I'm not sure it would. I'm not a criminal attorney. I wish Jerry Wood, my buddy that we had here a couple of weeks ago, was with me today. We could talk about what that really means from a criminal law standpoint. But if they were to convict him of that, he could be looking at 15 years to life in prison. Negligent homicide is something else they could charge him with, and that's been defined as accidentally causing the death of another through negligent conduct or such reckless operation of a motor vehicle. It would not require that Tony Stewart intentionally tried to kill Ward, but only that he drove recklessly or carelessly. And, again, when you come back to what if at the end of the day, the facts show and demonstrate that Tony Stewart was trying to scare him, would that be enough from a criminal aspect to show beyond a reasonable doubt that, when he drove up there, he was trying to scare him? He wasn't trying to kill him. He wasn't going to try to really hurt him. He was just trying to do that. Would that be such reckless operation of a motor vehicle that it might support a negligent homicide? I don't know. It might. It sure might. In New York, you could get up to 4 years in prison for that. They've got also a charge in New York called manslaughter in the first. And it's I don't know. It doesn't cause, or it doesn't require as much as the others, but it would necessitate showing that Stewart intended to cause serious harm and in doing so killed Kevin Ward. Again, I just don't see that happening in there. The conviction there could carry a sentence up to 25 years. I just don't see it. I think if anything happened on this from a criminal standpoint, you're probably going to see it in the realm of negligent homicide. And listen, folks, would not be the first time an athlete had been charged with a charge such as negligent homicide as a result of something that happened on the sports field. You know, we all know that you can get seriously injured or even killed in some sporting events, certainly killed in some sporting events, such as auto racing. Obviously, you can get seriously injured and even killed in football. I mean, it's a very violent sport. But at what point does behavior on the field of play exceed what is normal? And, there have been instances in the past, especially in car racing, where cars have just negligently or recklessly tried to perform maneuvers causing crashes, killing folks, and the DAs have prosecuted those cases. So this was not an unusual situation from that standpoint. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the civil aspects, and then we'll get into some of the evidentiary issues that might be there. I'm Brad Parker. This is Bar Talk, AM 1160 KVCE. Look forward to talking to you in a minute.
Metroplex. This is 1160 AM KVCE.
Hey, this is your DFW Sports Angel, Robin Valatudo. Hey, Vinos.
Yeah.
We are shuffling our Sports Blitz Saturday lineup. Inside the game, talking all things sports, 11 a.m., followed by Golf Grape and Grub, hosted by Tom Keys and Pamela Wood, and then Texas Links on the air with Pat Wheeler.
Sounds great.
AM 1160, your home for Notre Dame football, the Plano ISD Game of the Week, and Texas Legends basketball. Visit kvceradio.com/sports.
Ow! Stupid bugs! Ow!
If pests are pestering you this summer, give Alicat Pest Control a call. A top performer in the pest control industry for over 25 years, offering the most comprehensive pest control services to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and surrounding counties. Alicat Pest Control is dedicated to providing a wide array of quality eradication services to apartment complexes, manufacturing facilities, food industry facilities, churches, and residential properties. Our technicians are trained specialists providing our clients with timely, effective pest control services, from termite and bug detection and eradication, including removal of spiders, wasps, bees, ants, roaches, and even vermin. There's no pest too big or too small for Alicat Pest Control. Protect your investment and don't let termites destroy your home. Don't let bed bugs ruin a good night's sleep. Give us a call today, 817-469-4849. That's 817-469-4849. Or visit AlicatPestandTermite.com.
When I first got out of law school, I went to work for a big downtown Fort Worth law firm. It was a prestigious job, but I never felt fulfilled professionally helping banks and companies. I didn't have that fulfillment that kind of drove me to be a lawyer to begin with. And the more I saw and learned, the more I realized that maybe being in the big firm wasn't the right thing for me. I went out on my own to kind of start doing some personal injury work and some what we call insurance bad faith, because you get the opportunity to help real people. Your efforts and your success makes a difference in their lives. And that is very satisfying and very rewarding to me. And it drives me every morning when I wake up to be able to help people. The rewarding times after a case is settled, the cards I get from clients, just to say, thank you, you made a difference in my life. I never really got that from the CEOs of the banks that I represented. It is truly rewarding to know that you've made a difference in someone's life and you've really helped them out.
Principal Office, Bedford, Texas.
Real estate accounts for more millionaires than any other investment vehicle. Lifestyles Unlimited is an education and mentor group that for over 23 years has taken people by the hand and taught them how to build wealth and passive income streams. Our students have won Investor of the Year awards 8 of the last 8 years. We offer a free workshop for anyone considering investing in real estate. 866-945-6565. That's 866-945-6565. Or visit lifestylesunlimited.com. That's lifestylesunlimited.com.
Do you remember that little book you got when you bought your new car? Didn't want to take time to go through it with the salesperson? Said you'd read it when you got home? You know what I'm talking about, the service manual. Well, most consumers never open it up or even know how to really service their car. Well, let me tell you about the people who do know. Driver's Edge Auto Repair. You know, the service manual helps, but at Driver's Edge, we know it's really about you and your driving habits. At Driver's Edge Auto Repair, having the top ASE certified mechanics looking at your car means no summerizing, no winterizing, just service needed to get the maximum life out of your car, truck, or SUV. With a 3-year, 36,000-mile nationwide warranty and an education approach, not a sales approach, make it Driver's Edge Auto Repair. Go to mydriversedge.com. That's mydriversedge.com for the location nearest you. From transmission to engine repair and service that's all about you, make it Driver's Edge Auto Repair. Go to mydriversedge.com. That's mydriversedge.com.
1160 AM, KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
Welcome back to Bar Talk with Brad Parker. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160.
What'd you say?
Welcome back, everybody. This is Brad Parker. You're listening to Bar Talk. I'm the attorney you want, but hope you never need. We're talking about the Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward tragic event that happened up in New York over the weekend and the legal ramifications to it. You know, before we took our break, I was talking to you about the criminal aspects of it, but what I want to focus on now is the civil aspects, because that's where you're probably going to see something happen, more likely than not, regardless of what happens in the criminal aspects or criminal field. And I was looking at New York law this afternoon. They're much like Texas law in this regard, in that this will be a wrongful death suit. There are two types of cases when you have one of these events, a death. One is a wrongful death suit that can be brought by, in essence, the parents, the spouse, or the children of the deceased. And the other is what we call a survival cause of action. And it is basically where someone is injured very severely, but they don't die instantly. And they may die, as a result of their injuries at some point in the future, or at some point after the initial incurrence of their injuries. And after their death, the estate has a claim for their survival action. Given the type of crash that occurred out there, I suspect that the only kind of case you would see would be a wrongful death suit. And I've looked, and I don't see, and I haven't read where Kevin Ward was married or that he had any kids. I could be totally wrong about that, but he was 20 years old, and likelihood is that he did not. But he's survived by his parents, and they certainly, under New York law, would have a cause of action for wrongful death. And what they would have to show, and they have 2 years to bring that cause of action, just the same as in Texas. And what they would have to show is very similar as to what we would have to do in Texas, and that is they must prove by preponderance of the evidence that Tony Stewart was, by his negligence or carelessness, was the direct or indirect cause of Kevin Ward's death. And so the real issue is what does negligence mean? In Texas, the charge would read, do you find from a preponderance of the evidence that the negligence of Tony Stewart caused or contributed to, or was approximate cause of Kevin Ward's death? Negligence in New York is much like it is everywhere in the country, including Texas, and it means the failure to behave or perform a task with the same level of care or attention that a reasonable person would provide under the same or similar circumstances. And so, and he goes on to say, or taking unreasonable action when a prudent person would not. So in essence, the jury's going to have to ask themselves, if they get this case, what would a reasonable person do in the same or similar circumstances as Tony Stewart on the night that this happened? And we'll go through some of that, but I think the first thing you've got to consider, and the first thing that I would do as the plaintiff's lawyer, and it'd be an underlying theme, I think, of my case, was that there were, I believe, two other drivers who, while Kevin Ward was on that track, coming down and pointing and yelling at Tony Stewart, saw him and avoided him. And it was Tony Stewart, the third driver, who couldn't or didn't. That in and of itself would tend to show that maybe a reasonable person under the same or similar circumstances would have avoided Kevin Ward. The obviously one of the issues, and we'll get into this a little bit more as we go on, the conduct of Kevin Ward. I mean, he should not have gotten out of that car. There's just no question about that. There was a caution flag out, and I'm no race aficionado by any stretch of the imagination, but I occasionally watch a race on TV Sunday afternoon if I'm at home, and I've seen those race car drivers get out umpteen million different times. It seems like it's just gotten to be part of the sport. But in any event, the jury's certainly going to evaluate that conduct. And in New York, they have what we call a pure comparative negligence situations. That means is that if the jury were to award $100, and that's way low, but let's just use that, and they found Tony Stewart 70% responsible and Kevin Ward 30% responsible, the award to the family or the ultimate judgment would only be $70. You would subtract his percentage responsibility from the damages. So you've got that. And then you also have what is called gross negligence. And if the family of Kevin Ward could show that Tony Stewart acted with a conscious or reckless disregard for another's safety. That's not quite as strict of a definition as we have in Texas, but in essence, it's the same. They could be entitled to gross negligence finding and therefore punitive damages. And certainly, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Tony Stewart's estimated wealth, from everything I've seen, is $100 million plus. So there's certainly a lot at stake for Tony Stewart if the family decides to pursue this thing. But what kinds of things would come into play? What would be used as evidence in this case, and what would be used to show whether or not, again, remember the standard, whether or not he was acting as a reasonably prudent person would do under the same or similar circumstances? Obviously, one of the things he might consider is the speed in which he was traveling. And, if you watch that videotape, it does appear that Tony's still clipping around there pretty fast as compared to the other cars that preceded him right before the impact with Kevin Ward. You also, you can clearly hear an engine being gunned. Now, again, I don't know if anybody could prove that was Tony Stewart's car whose engine was gunned. I've heard people say that many times you have to give it gas in order to steer it because you're on a dirt track, and as you start to lose some speed, you lose a little bit of control and handling of the car. We also see the car fishtail in connection with the revving of the engine. So all of that, of course, is going to come into evidence, I would think. As one of the things we've heard about was the lighting that was out there. It is dark. Even from the video, you can see it is dark. They don't have, this isn't NASCAR. This isn't Texas Motor Speedway. This is a little 1 mile oval track up in New York, and it's dark up there. And in that corner, it's a little dark, and Kevin Ward was wearing a black jumpsuit, fire suit, with some orange stripes, I think, and he was wearing a black helmet. So obviously lighting was going to become a factor, an evidentiary factor in the case. I've read some accounts. I've never driven one of those cars, but apparently the vision on the right-hand side of these automobiles is very poor. Because of the way they're designed, it's just a little bit harder to see to your right. And, of course, as you see the video, Kevin Ward is on the right-hand side of the car. Now, of course, there's the video itself, certainly going to come into evidence, I would think. I can't imagine how it would be kept out. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the show, apparently there has been a second video that has now come out. And I don't know what that shows. It's certainly, you would think from a different angle, you're going to see different things. The jury will most likely see that. And there's been a lot of talk about, Tony Stewart is apparently well known for having cameras in his car. Yet from what I understand, they're saying that he didn't have one in this particular car. And I understand that. This is a dirt track, and it's not like racing NASCAR where you've got NBC in the cockpit with you, but or whoever the sponsor or the TV station may be. But so, I don't know. Did they lose it, or did they really have it and lose it, or did he really not have it? I don't know. Of course, you'll have some kind of accident reconstruction out there, but that's going to be very, very difficult to do on a dirt track. You don't have skid marks like you would on asphalt. The dirt moves, whether or not they were able to maintain it. If you see the video of the accident, you see all the safety vehicles drive immediately up onto the scene. So to a large degree, that track, the dirt tracks, are going to be obscured. Other drivers, you're going to have other drivers testifying about what they saw and what they did and the stuff. I keep coming back, though, when the thing is what a reasonably prudent person would do under the same or similar circumstances. All those other two drivers had to face the same thing, and they missed him. And that's going to be pretty powerful, and I think it's going to be a difficult burden for Stewart to overcome. We got to go to break. Come back with me. We're going to finish up talking about a few other things. This is Bar Talk, and I'm Brad Parker, AM 1160 KVCE. Talk to you after the break.
Business Authority, 1160 AM, KVCE.
Boss Academy Radio wants to give back to its listeners. For the first time in 10 years, Tony Robbins is coming back to Dallas to help you unleash the power within.
Are you going to give up or move forward? Are you going to blame somebody or are you going to change something? Whatever you do is going to shape your destiny.
Turn fear into power and transform everything from finances to your relationships to your health. This isn't hyper motivation, but a life-changing event hosted by a man who has helped transform and influence the lives of more than 8 million people worldwide. When registering to attend this powerful, life-changing 4-day seminar, get your special Boss Academy discount. All you have to do is dial 858-535-6220 and tell them Boss Academy sent you. Unleash the power within, where the impossible becomes possible with Tony Robbins Live, October 23rd through the 26th at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, 650 South Griffin Street in Dallas. Visit kvceradio.com or call today and mention Boss Academy, 858-535-6220. That's 858-535-6220.
True story. A Seattle man went to bed with nearly $300,000 in his bank account. By morning, the money had vanished because of some identity thief. Can you imagine? What if some thief got to your life savings? Look, no one can stop all identity theft, but here's what you do. Arm your bank and retirement accounts with LifeLock Ultimate Plus. Yep, LifeLock's best just got better. LifeLock Ultimate Plus is the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, helping protect your identity, your bank and retirement accounts, credit cards, even the equity in your home. How many other ID theft protection services do that? 0. So why risk it? Get LifeLock Ultimate Plus and sleep easier knowing if a thief goes after your identity or life savings, LifeLock's on it. Visit LifeLock.com now and enter promo code AWARE or call and mention AWARE to save 10% on your LifeLock Ultimate Plus membership. 1-800-LifeLock. 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 Network does not cover all transactions.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter. We have an unwavering commitment to people who have been seriously harmed by the negligence or wrongdoing of others. Our practice focuses on those who have been killed or seriously injured in major trucking or car accidents or whose lives have been seriously disrupted by the bad faith conduct of an insurance company.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker, principal partner at Parker Law Firm. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. I'm also the immediate past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. When you or a loved one has been seriously injured in an accident caused by another person's negligence, you may not know where to go or who to trust. Our firm is built on years of trial experience, a tradition of personal service, and a reputation for zealous representation of our clients. We're dedicated to providing experienced and comprehensive legal assistance to individuals and their families during their times of need.
Let the attorneys from Parker Law Firm help you. Get a free consultation. Call 817-503-9200. ParkerLawFirm.com. Principal Office, Bedford, Texas.
Attention all listeners, are you ready for a free stock market webinar with philsgang.com?
Hi, I'm Phil Green at Phil's Gang. Learn to adapt September 13th to the Federal Reserve low interest rate stock market. No longer do we have a stock market, but a market for your individual stocks. Using the Phil's Gang charting system empowers you where you influence the outcome of your investment, short or long term. Learn to adapt to invest efficiently and intelligently. That's September 13th.
Join us September 13th at 12 noon Eastern for the philsgang.com free webinar valued at $75. Phil's Gang hosts Phil Grandy and Donald Cogswell will teach you how to adapt to this ever-changing stock market. This webinar will cover all stock market trading, all investing skill levels. You will learn how to protect your principal in this Federal Reserve-controlled low-interest rate market by identifying moves before they happen. To attend this free webinar, enter promo code GANG. That's G-A-N-G. Go to philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Call 877-600-4264. 877-600-4264.
This is 1160 AM KVCE. KVCE. Dallas Fort Worth's Business Authority.
Welcome back to Believers in Business Bar Talk with Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer Brad Parker, right here on AM 1160 KVCE. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm.
Hey, welcome back. This is Bar Talk, and I'm Brad Parker, the attorney you want, but hope you never need. I'm talking about the Tony Stewart tragic event that unfolded over the weekend where he ran into and killed Kevin Ward on a dirt track up in New York. We've talked about the legal ramifications from a criminal standpoint, and what we're talking about now is from a civil standpoint, a wrongful death action, if you will, because of the wrongful death of Kevin Ward. His family has a cause of action against Tony Stewart. As I mentioned a moment ago, they would have to show that Tony was negligent in order to recover. They'd have to show that Tony Stewart failed to act as a reasonably prudent person would have acted under the same or similar circumstances. And I was going through some of the evidence that would be admissible to try to show that. And I tell you, I believe that the most compelling evidence of everything else out there is that two other drivers missed him. And, of course, as we visited a minute ago about the conduct of Kevin Ward is certainly coming into evidence, coming into play. I mean, what he did by leaving the safety of the confines of that car and putting himself at risk, he's certainly partly responsible for this. There's no question about that. How much so? I don't know. And that goes back to what we were talking about was why did the other two drivers miss him and Tony didn't? Was Tony trying to show a young kid, don't mess with me? Was he trying to intimidate him by breezing him, just brushing him back? Was he trying to throw a little dirt on him? God, you would hope not. But, people get angry in sports. A competition is everybody's working off a high adrenaline. But, one of the other things that Tony may be having going against him is his past conduct. It is known far and wide in the racing circles that Tony, while he is apparently from all accounts a genuinely sincere and nice guy off the track, he can be a real jerk on the track apparently, and he's known for being a real hothead. In fact, he's got a nickname of Smoke. He has several violent outbursts that he's been attributed to him. As far back as 2002, when he punched out a photographer, was fined $50,000 by NASCAR for doing that. In August of 2012, he threw a helmet at Matt Kenseth's car during a race up in Tennessee and made comments after the race that he would run over Kenseth's every chance he got. He made a statement in March of 2013, just a little more than a year ago. He accused another race car driver by the name of Joey Logano of blocking his car in a race up in Fontana, California. And after that race, he stormed over, shoved him, got in a fist fight, had to be pulled off, and made a comment afterwards, if he ever turns down a cross in front of me again, I don't care what lap it is. When he make it through the other end of it. I'm going to bust his rear end, for lack of a better word there. He told people later that he was going to run him over. Talladega, 2012. He made a comment, if we don't crash half the field by the end of the race, then they really need to extend it, because that is what fans want. They want to see excitement. Those are comments from Tony Stewart. July 2013, he was on the exact same track where this unfortunate event occurred, and took responsibility ultimately for his car making contact with another car, triggering a 15-car accident that left a young woman driver by the name of Alicia Ruggles with a compression fracture in her back. Apparently, I've read accounts that there was a past relationship between Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward, and that's understandable. I mean, Tony is the third winningest NASCAR racer there is. He's running on these dirt tracks. You're a young up-and-comer. What better way to get a name for yourself than to beat Tony Stewart on a dirt track? I mean, in those circles, that's a big deal. And apparently they had gotten into some words exchanged back and forth over things in the past. Would those be admitted into evidence? It's hard to say. Typically, past behavior and past conduct is not admissible into evidence because, quite frankly, the prejudicial value or harm that testimony does would outweigh any probative value. In other words, you don't want the jury concentrating on things that happened in the past. We need to concentrate on what happened this time. Because Tony Stewart had these outbursts in the past didn't mean he was having one at the time of this event. Maybe he was, but it doesn't mean that he was just because he had done it in the past. However, if the plaintiffs can find enough evidence of very similar circumstances in which Tony had tried to brush back drivers that were calling him out with his car, or had come very close to him, those kinds of instances may well be admissible in the case, and it's going to be a real battle, I suspect, between the attorneys if this thing were to ever go to trial on those kinds of issues. However, if this case gets filed, there's the likelihood of it actually going to trial, I think, is probably remote. For a number of different reasons. The last thing I would think that Tony Stewart wants is the publicity. Much of his money, much of his income is derived from endorsements. You don't want that going on. You don't want, if you're a big soda pop conglomerate, you don't want a guy who's synonymous with killing another man on the racetrack, whether it was by accident or negligence or intentional, necessarily pushing your product. And so that's going to have some deal. But the most interesting thing I found when I was looking at this was the damages that are recoverable in New York as compared to Texas under a wrongful death claim. And in Texas, you have what we call loss of consortium. And that's really the big component of a wrongful death claim, the loss of the love, the comfort, the society, the companionship of your loved one when they meet an untimely demise. That's really what's evaluated in these cases from a damage standpoint. And in New York, however, it's totally different. It's just pecuniary damages, from what I could tell, meaning only the income that his parents lost as a result of the death of their son. They don't award consortium damages, which I found to be very, very strange. And so that if there is a lawsuit, it's going to be somewhat limited in the type of damages that can come about. I guess the bottom line to all of this is it's an extremely tragic event. Tempers were flaring, adrenaline was rushing, and ultimately I think probably two men made horrible lapses in judgment, possibly resulting in the death of one. And, I can't imagine that this doesn't scar Tony Stewart for the rest of his life as well. Well, that's going to be all for this week. Again, I'm Brad Parker. This is Bar Talk. I encourage you to call me at my office, 817-503-9200. If you have any questions, I hope I can have answers for you. I hope I can find an attorney to help you if I can't help you. I hope you'll turn in also next week to listen to my show, and tune in tomorrow at the same time, 5 to 6, to listen to Frank and Donna on the Family Law Hour. They do a great job. If you got any questions about that, follow them up. And I hope you'll stay tuned. We've got the Bloomberg News Hour coming up next. Hope you'll stay around for that. Matt, I want to say thank you for all your help today and keeping me on time. And I look forward to visiting with all 10 of my listeners next week from 5 to 6 on Bar Talk with Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need, on AM 1160 KVCE.